Hey everyone, this is Margalo and it's Memoir Monday. Today I'd like to talk about the passage of time in memoir. Indicating the passage of time as you're writing memoir does several things. First of all, it creates context. And the context helps create significance. Okay, what do I mean by that? Let's take an extreme example, just for the sake of demonstration. Okay, let's say that you and a significant other have recently broken up. Okay, and you write, okay, this person, your ex, calls you at work 20 times. Okay, without time, that really doesn't tell us much. Was it 20 calls in a month? Well, that's approximately one call a day at the office, which could be annoying, but isn't necessarily something to be alarmed about. What if those 20 calls from your ex at work occurred over the course of a week? Okay, well now a 5-day work week, that's about 4 calls a day at your office. That starts to get a little bit into creepy territory, right? Because then it's like, okay, why can't this person just let go, right? But now, what if that person calls you 20 times in one morning at your office, say between 9 a.m. and 12 noon? Well, that would take the situation to a whole new level, wouldn't it? Because now you're looking at unpredictable behavior, right? Because 20 calls to an ex at work over the course of 3 hours is what's generally considered beyond normal human behavior. So now we're into unpredictability, and so that leads to the question, okay, well, if the person's willing to do that, what might they do next? How might this escalate? Right? There might be mental or emotional instability involved. Will this lead to physical, stalking, violence even? So it gives it context. So we know, okay, what does this actually mean, right? So moving on to the next one is tension. Putting in time frames helps create tension. How can we do this? Let's take another extreme example. Because tension, first of all, the race against time is one of the oldest tension-building storytelling techniques, right? The protagonist is racing to save someone from a disaster, racing to prevent a disaster, racing to, someone's bedside, before the person dies. There are all kinds of events and situations in which time plays a very critical factor in what happens next, in the outcome of a story. And so that's what keeps us on the edge of our seats, right? So let's take an example, as I said, another extreme example. Let's say you're at work and you receive a call that your house is on fire, right? So you write that you get in your car and you race home. Well, okay, how far away? How do we know if you're going to make it or not? Do we know that you're even close enough to even potentially prevent something horrible from happening, right? Is your office maybe a 5-minute drive? Maybe you're 3 miles from your house, right? And so you race home and and the flames are already engulfing the house. Or you manage to make it home in time to go in and save your cat, or your book manuscript or whatever it is that's important to you, right? Now, what if it normally takes you 5 minutes to get home, but now there's traffic, and it takes you 45 minutes to get home instead of 5 minutes? Well, that makes a difference in building that tension, right? That's something, you're racing home to try to accomplish something, and you're not being given that chance. And so the tension's building. What's going on at the house while you're stuck in traffic, okay? So now we have, context, significance, and tension. Another thing that it can do that indicating the passage of time in your memoir can do is provide simple and effective segues from topic to topic, from context to context, right? So, for example, let's say you're looking for, let's say, in one paragraph, in one scene, you're on a date at a restaurant, right? And then the next scene, you're home. You can say something very simple to indicate indicate the passage of time that sort of introduces the next scene. By the time I staggered in the door, 2 hours later. Simple, right? Or by the time I staggered into my apartment. So that's one technique. Okay, so now it moves you at one simple phrase, not even a sentence, but that one simple phrase indicating the passage of time takes you from the date to your house. Okay, so what are some other techniques for indicating the passage of time? One thing that you can use is kind of like a diary technique, or more like a captain's log, I sometimes call it. Like the star date, 2617. You sometimes see this in crime fiction as well. You might, when the police are trying to track down, a kidnapper who's kidnapped a senator's daughter or something, whatever it is, and in let's say a novel, you might have, 7:09 a.m., the station house. Well, you can do something like that in a memoir as well. 7:15 a.m., coffee on the porch. And then, 9:33 a.m., mosey into the office. So we understand, or even, 2 weeks later, or 3 months later. So you can do something like that, February, June, September. And you can just indicate it like that, where it's not really part of the narrative, but you're just kind of placing markers. Another one was another technique is the one I just mentioned, by the time I blank, blank, blank. By the time I staggered home, by the time I pulled into the driveway, 10 minutes later, or 6 hours later, if you're driving, let's say, from Florida to Georgia or something. So you can do that. You can even say something along the lines of, the calls continued for the next 3 months. If you just want to get out of, some sort of repetition of an event or a situation, you can just say, it went on like this, or continued like this in the same vein for the next 3 months, or for the next 2 hours, or whatever it is. Or it only took 30 minutes to ... So there are lots of very simple techniques you can use to convey the passage of time. And they're very useful for a number of reasons, as I mentioned. One more involves, let's say you don't know the actual time, right? Let's say you don't have a clock, there's no watch, you don't exactly know how much time has passed. Let's say you're sitting out in your garden, right, in a lawn chair, and you don't have a watch, there's no clock out there. There are still indications of the passage of time, and you can use those in your writing. Think about it. If you're outdoors, what are some of the things that change over the course of a day, right? Or even over the course of several hours? The colors of the sky might change. The light, the quality of the light might change, and it might move across the sky, right? Like the sun moving across the sky. There might be shadows, or time of day when there are no shadows because the sun's directly overhead. The temperature might change. It might be cool in the morning, warm in the middle of the day, and cool again in the evening when the sun goes down. Different types of wildlife might come around. Larks come out in the morning. Deer usually come out at dusk or later. Even different types of insects. There might be no-see-ums, gnats, mosquitoes that all come out at different times of day. So you can use all of these indicators to write the passage of time, even without a clock and without a wristwatch or anything like that. Church bells or any other particular sounds that you might hear, the raising or lowering of a flag. All of these can be anything that happens at a particular time in the location that you're writing about, can indicate the passage of time, and you can use all of these to accomplish the same end. So I hope this has been helpful. Please feel free to share questions and comments below. And thanks so much for joining me. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.